Welcome to day 2 of my Valentine series. Today we will be painting a cute and simple Valentine envelope. I used a ruler for the envelope and then I created the heart by drawing half a heart on a folded piece of paper, cutting it out, and then tracing it onto my envelope. I used a kneaded eraser in order to get rid of some of the really harsh pencil lines. Here I'm starting with a clear wash, just wetting the paper, not worrying about the sections of the envelope or the heart, just getting the whole space damp. The first layer is a nice light baby pink, heavily diluted with water. I like to outline the sections before filling it in. It helps me to see the pencil lines that have been lightly erased, and I feel like it grounds the space. I'm trying to be careful with the outside of the envelope, but I'm not too worried because I know I'm going to do a thin outline with a different color to hide any mistakes. When I start working from section to section, it will cover up those lines that I made with the ruler, but because it's such a light baby pink and it dries lighter, I'm not worried about it. I still think I'll see the line that I made with the pencil. Whenever I feel like I've used a little bit too much water, I go in with a light brush and just kind of sop it up. I went over into the heart a little bit with my baby pink, but I know I'm filling that in with a darker red, so I'm not worried about it. The sections I started in the beginning have already started to dry, so I'm going over the outline with my same baby pink that I mixed up. This glazing effect is helping to darken those outside lines, and I'm doing the same thing with the intersection lines. I want a little texture to the envelope. I don't want it to look flat, so I'm creating a few blooms more on the outside corners and helping it along with a damp brush towards the center of the envelope. This part can be kind of fun, letting water do its thing. And then you'll notice that it's really making dimension. Once you complete all of the sections, then let it completely dry or use a hair dryer to dry it. Next, we're going to go in with our mid-tone. So we're going to deepen that baby pink just a little bit, and we're going to define all of those lines that we made with the ruler. Take a damp brush and blend out that line so it's not so harsh. This is the first layer of adding shadow. So you don't have to be perfect on this. You're just kind of defining the space and blending it out. The actual envelope in the center is going to be lighter than the corners. So you're going to deepen your shadows in the corners of your envelope. We're trying to create the shadow from the folds of the envelope. So you're doing it beneath the fold of the paper. We're going to add a few more blooms with our mid-tone baby pink. I'm dropping in some water and then I'm dropping in that baby pink into the water droplets. And I'm using a damp brush to kind of blend it out. I'm helping the water along with this damp brush. And it can look a little hectic at this stage. This is probably the ugly stage. But you'll find that once this dries, these little droplets and the way you've blended it out will become your favorite part of the painting. Keep deepening any parts of the shadow that you think could maybe be a little bit darker now that things are starting to dry. While adding some shading, I'm being mindful of the little sliver of paper above the folds of the envelope. That's where I'm going to add a highlight. So I'm trying not to saturate that area too much. It's time to add another layer. So we're going to have an even darker shade of that same baby pink. And we're just going to do exactly what we did before, but with a little bit more of a heavy hand. Still blending it out with a damp brush. Again, we're being a little darker in the corners and we're blending it out lighter as it goes to the middle of the envelope. Still being careful of that little sliver that we're going to use as a highlight later. And then we're going to let it completely dry before adding our complementary color to the center heart. This is a light lime green because the center heart is going to be red. So we're just going to outline the heart in this green, knowing that that will darken it and create a shadow when we put the red on top. And blending it out towards the center, and then I let it completely dry before adding the red, otherwise it'll muddy the color. This is my first layer of this bright cherry red, and I'm just doing the outline first just to define the space and then filling it in. I'm not really worried about it in terms of how it's fading in because this is only the first layer. I let it dry for a little bit before going in with a second layer. This time I'm deepening that cherry red color just a little bit, and then I'm outlining the space. This is helping with that shadow and keeping the center lighter because you're going to be putting a highlight, and then making sure to blend it out with a damp brush. I want to define the actual sections of the envelope, but I don't want it to be a black, harsh line. So I mixed up some of that lime green and cherry red that I already had in my palette, and it created this nice burnt sienna color. And I used an ultra thin brush to outline all of the sections and the outside of the envelope and the heart. I did wind up using black just for the outside of the heart. I wanted it to look ultra defined because it's, for me, a sticker that's closing the envelope. When working on the cast shadow, I like to start with a light gray wash. I'm not too worried about it. I don't want it to be really defined at this point. So I'm just using a loose interpretation with my brush. I want to give the illusion that the envelope is propped up against something. So I have a little bit of a cast shadow on the left side that I'm going to make darker with a little darkening of that light gray wash. And I'm dragging it across and making a little darker pool to the right. This is my mid-tone shadow. I'm still blending it out with a damp brush. I don't want harsh lines with this cast shadow. I'm adding multiple layers of this darker wash of the gray, and I'm keeping it more concentrated closest to the envelope. I added a touch of indigo to my darkest gray wash, and I'm just lightly creating a darker cast shadow closest to the envelope, and I'm still blending it out. Once I feel like the cast shadow is how I like it, it's time to move on to the highlight. I use a white bleed proof paint, and I'm lightly creating a highlight above the folds, and then a little one on the heart sticker, and I blend it out with a damp brush. Here is our finished painting in natural light. I hope you enjoyed painting with me, and I hope to see you on the next video.